The RMA is the main mechanism in New Zealand dealing with land use and water management. Very often the local authorities haven't been able to put that base management plan in place fast enough with the right information, but also they've had to struggle against the fact that the resource management has this resource consent process, which is a first in, first served basis. So the savvy users have been getting in a long time ahead of the development of the water management plans, and they've been, basically claiming and getting a stake through the permitting system of big quantities of water. What's been going on in the South Island, the Waiheke River and Project Aqua, the very big energy project down there, has been really instrumental because the local authorities were caught short. They didn't have a water management plan in place, and ultimately that's why the government had to step in and basically put a halt on the resource consent applications by the power company there, to make sure there was a water management plan in place before the resource consent applications went ahead. The regional council and the various territorial authorities involved there just couldn't manage the whole process because they hadn't kind of got an overarching view on how to manage it, and they were just caught with this really problematic situation of first in, first serve. So it was a very limited gold rush type mentality was happening down in the Waiheke. Because councils haven't known that much about the resources, up until now there haven't been a lot of applications in certain areas. They've been dishing out 35-year permits and relying on conditions in the permits to be able to reassess if there's new scientific evidence that the resource isn't as big as they thought, or there's contamination or whatever. So there are a lot of permits out there for the maximum of 35 years. Now what that does for really savvy users is it gives them a legal basis to argue that they have a legal right to depend on that quantity, that quality of the water for a 35-year period. And once you give people a legal right like that, even though there's a lot of uncertainty about the scope of that legal right at the moment, they will fight it in the courts, and they will run very strong economic arguments about the fact that their business cannot be viable without the certainty of having the access to that amount of water for that period of time. Okay, so strong economic arguments that they keep that right for the 35-year period.
In New Zealand, we've been lucky in that we've got pretty good rainfall, and these issues haven't really come up. It's more places like Israel or California or Australia where where water rights are so imperative.
Well, the first problem is that the world's running out of water. It's not a case of, oh, it's fine, we've got a closed ecological cycle or hydrologic cycle, and therefore you can't destroy water. We are destroying water. We're taking clean surface water and polluting it, diverting it, depleting it to the point, and now we're using the groundwater to the point that by 2025, if we don't dramatically change our ways, 2/3 of the world will be living with some level of water stress or scarcity, and many, many people will be dying. People are dying already, depends on where you live.
There is this issue about water having the status under the World Trade Organization agreements as a good, but also being reclassified as a service. And I think one of the there are many issues tied up in that, but one of the most important things is under the auspices of the World Trade Organization, there is supposed to be free trade now in the delivery of services. So you can have a situation, as you do in many countries now, where communities through their local government authorities supply the service of water, municipal water. But if you have free trade in that sector of service delivery, what you can have now is large world corporations coming in and taking over the delivery of that service.
The prospect that 2/3 of the world's population will have no access to fresh drinking water by 2025 has provoked the initial confrontations in a worldwide battle for control over the planet's most basic resource. When Bolivia sought to refinance the public water service of its third largest city, the World Bank required that it be privatized, which is how the Bechtel Corporation of San Francisco gained control over all of Cochabamba's water, even that which fell from the sky.
Esta ley, este contrato, prohibían a la gente acumular el agua de la lluvia. Por lo tanto, el agua de la lluvia también se privatizaba. La factura de agua le daba un valor legal a la empresa para que pueda apropiarse de su propiedad, de su vivienda, rematando la misma. La gente debía optar por una decisión de comer menos, pagar del agua, pagar por los servicios básicos, dejar de mandar a los niños a la escuela, no asistir a los hospitales y curarse en la propia casa, o en todo caso, gente jubilada, por ejemplo, que tiene una renta muy baja, debería buscar trabajo en las calles.
We are facing a situation where the private sector, in the form of large service multinationals or large bottling companies like Coke and Nestle, or even companies that are now wanting to move water by mass movement through pipelines or supertankers, are now moving in to take control of the world's water, to commodify it, to privatize it, to put it on the open market for sale. That's why I call it blue gold, because for them it is just the key to power and success. Whoever controls this world's finite and diminishing resource is going to be very, very powerful.